Good evening, everyone. We are back again after a gap of a week or so with our series wherein Dhruvati sir is going to talk about CAT, ZAT, SNAP, CMAT, etc., preparation, the strategies, and everything. Taking one topic in every day, every Friday. Tonight, it's all about VARC, VARC, and we would be talking about first initially we would be busting the myth about work, and then it would be on the strategies which is to be adapted for the preparation, and of course how to enhance the overall score in this particular topic. So tonight, MDI Gurgaon, one of the premier institute of India, is also partnering in association with campussutra.com, and we are thankful to MDI Gurgaon for that. So let's start. Trivedi sir, it's you.
Yeah,
Begin.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nirmala. Hi, everyone. What we are going to discuss the VRC section today. Before we start, just one request that if you are watching it on mobile or if you are watching it on your laptop, just go to settings and increase the resolution of the video to HD. That will help you to see the PPT and the presentation more clearly, and will be able to answer and participate in the uh, discussion. One. Secondly, if you have any questions, there is a live chat that is going on. You can always give your reactions. You can always ask questions. I can see that live chat in my phone, so you can always ask questions there. Leave your comments if anything that you want to know or any specific things that you want to be discussed upon. And even if we cannot take that today, we will definitely look into that in the coming sessions. Right. Today we will be talking about the VRC section of the business school entrance exams, that is CAT and ZAT. These are the two main exams that are left this year, as you already know, because uh, IFT has discontinued their exam this year and has merged with CAT. So therefore, CAT, ZAT, and MAT and SNAP remains the biggest exams this year for almost all the business school entrance exams. The syllabus is more or less same. However, since nearest is CAT, we will be talking about CAT primarily, though, as I said, that the session will cater to almost all the requirements that you have for all the entrance exams. Let's first of all talk about what comes in the paper. Okay. If I talk about CAT primarily, uh, as you know, this is a 2-hour paper this year, so therefore 40 minutes for each of the three sections, that is quant, VRC, and LRDI. And therefore, most probably, if I go by the structure of last year, there will be around 24 questions, 16 questions of RC, 4 questions each into 4 such passages, 8 questions of verbal ability, which might include para completion, para jumble, para summary. Okay, I'll not go to the details of it. If you are a serious CAT aspirant, you will obviously know what they are. Uh, there are some other possibilities uh, for other exams like ZAT, SNAP also, plus even for CAT, because please remember, it is not at all necessary that CAT comes exactly like the way it came last year or even last 2 years. Uh, Critical reasoning had been a part of CAT history. If you look at a 15-20 year long history of CAT, then critical reasoning had been a part of CAT history pre-COVID. Sentence correction, grammar questions has been an integral part of CAT preparation, as well as CAT and ZAT papers, as well as NMAT and SIBM SNAP for the last 20 years. Direct vocab based questions, you might see that I have put a star and I say that it is unlikely in CAT. But direct vocab based questions, that is understanding the meaning of the word and therefore find out what is the correct usage and etc., is unlikely in CAT. The reason I'm saying it is unlikely in CAT is because they seem to have discontinued it for some time now, almost 10 years. But yeah, for almost all other exams, uh, it comes in a fair percentage, and therefore we should study. Okay, so therefore, do we need vocab? Yes. Okay, that is the whole idea. But so far as CAT is concerned, my guess is it will be 24 questions, four passages of four questions each for RC, 8 questions of VA, para completion, para jumble, and para summary. Okay. In other possibilities, just don't forget and don't ignore that critical reasoning and sentence correction. You should keep on practicing if you have practiced it till now. Even for other exams, it is very, very critically important. Okay. Now, let's first of all break some myths. I always love this part about VRC preparation for CAT. I want to break some myths. Okay. This is a very common one. The first thing that I always come to here is that sentence correction question no longer comes in CAT, and therefore there is no use learning English grammar. They are anyway boring. Okay, English grammar questions, sentence correction questions, all these no longer come in CAT. It has been long that they have come in CAT, so therefore I don't think studying English grammar makes any sense. Okay, now let me first of all tell you, without English grammar, you cannot even do RC or VA. It is the base of English. If you don't understand English grammar, there is a high chance that you will not understand at least 25 to 30% of RC, or even 20 to 30% of the parajumble section. Okay, so English grammar is very, very important. Okay, it is important not only for CAT but for life. Please don't forget that once CAT is over, you have to cross the next selection procedure, which will include interviews, which will include written ability test, and so on and so forth. So therefore, uh, English grammar as a topic is undeniably important. So therefore, if you are thinking that CAT में बहुत दिन से नहीं आया है, so therefore let's not study it, that is not really a good decision. Okay, same thing goes for correct vocab usage as well. Okay, uh, the basic difference between, let's say, an international exam like GRE and Indian entrance exams like CAT and ZAT is, when we are talking about vocab, and I will talk about a detail about it in the coming slides, but when we are talking about vocab, the usage of the word, and not only the dictionary one liner meaning of the word, or not only the synonym of the word, the usage of the word correctly in a sentence or a context becomes very, very important for entrance exams, as I said, for the subsequent part of the selection process. So uh, do I need to study vocab? Do I need to study English grammar? The answer is must. Yes. Okay. Saying that they no longer come in CAT and therefore I don't need to study them. First of all, even if they don't come in CAT, they come in almost all the other exams. That is number one. Number two, as I said, please take this as a life skill. Please don't take it only for the exam. Without them, not only will not be able to do well in CAT exam or ZAT exam, you will also not be good in your life. Okay, because half of the world actually follows English communication, so therefore you can't deny that, you cannot run away from it. So therefore, just make sure that this is something which you prepare. The second thing which I have heard a lot in my last 23 years of teaching is, sir, quant, you have lot of theory. Sir, in DI, you can learn Vedic maths and faster calculations. In LR, you can study subjects like Venn diagram or games and tournaments or cubes and cutting of cubes. But English cannot be studied, sir. English can be only practiced. Okay, there is nothing to learn in English. Okay, you should just take up RC and practice RC. That is what you do. That is absolutely wrong. We just discussed, and I repeat it once again, grammar rules must be and should be learned. So if you are studying on your own, do pick up Ren and Martin. Nothing can be done. There is no alternative to it. uh, you might like to choose a CAT preparation VRC book. Choice is yours. I don't suggest any specific name, but yeah, there are quite a number of standard VARC preparation book available in the market. Very clearly, grammar rules should be and must be learned. Okay, it helps you in your reading comprehension, it helps you in your parajumbles and para completion. Okay, without understanding grammar rules you will not be able to do well in the entrance exams. So don't do that. And please learn the way you learn Fermat's theorem or remainder theorem or permutation combination formula in quant, or speed maths calculation in DI, in the exact same manner you should remember some grammar rules. Okay, so pick up your Renan Martin, read the grammar rules, try to remember them, try to remember at least 3 4 exceptions. I know it might sound very very boring, and while doing that it becomes all the more boring, but you have to study. Okay, English cannot be learned only through practice, because a huge gist of grammar comes from rules. Okay, so therefore if you don't learn the rules and you only practice, then you will not learn all the rules. For one simple reason, that the question that you saw in the paper will in the mocks will not be the exact question that will come in the paper. So you learned one rule, but if there are 5 exceptions to that rule which you did not learn, and that is the one that comes in the exam, whether it is ZAT or SNAP or NMAT, then you will not be able to answer the question. So therefore, grammar rules must be learned. If you are studying on your own, please pick up Renan Martin. If you want it in a concise manner, if you want it in a more target audience manner, then pick up a VRC book specifically for CAT or for ZAT and all that stuff. That will help you to learn the specifics that are useful for the exam. But yes, you should learn it. Okay. Similarly, when we talk about vocab, same thing goes. I will not suggest a GRE word list. Maybe it is slightly late in the day because today is already October, and maybe you should not, now concentrate more on vocab. But yes, when you learn vocab, instead of the one word meaning or the pocket dictionary meaning of the word, concentrate more on using that word in a sentence with the correct context. I'll give you an example as we move forward. But yes, vocab, you must concentrate on knowing the usage and the context. Okay, all this should be in sync. These are important, you need to study them. Okay, so even if you are studying, let's for a moment assume that you have decided that no, I will study through practice, I will not study rule books, I will study through practice. Make sure that what you do is that you learn a rule that is coincidental to the question that you just solved. But having said that, now you open the theory book and learn all the things about that theory. Okay, this is very very important, because without knowing that, as I said, you are not prepared for the exam as a whole. I repeat, whatever question you have done in the practice may not be the question that will come in the paper. So you have to be ready with a variant of it, and that you will not know if you are only practicing. Okay, now let's understand it by an example. Those who are attending, and I can see around 20 people attending the session, why don't you leave your comment on the correct answer for this? This is a question from one of the entrance exams in 2013. Okay, I took slightly old example, pre-COVID, because this year is going to be like pre-COVID. Okay, while the paper is for 2 hours, but this is going to be like pre-COVID. So I thought it might be a good idea to pick up some pre-COVID type of a question. Anybody wants to answer this? I'll be waiting for the comments. Get me an answer. A, B, C, D. Lokesh, since you have asked, in 50 days it is possible to improve vocabulary. The word improve fundamentally means making it better than what it is right now. Until the time we have that attitude, yes, it is possible. I don't want it to be a Shakespeare, right? Till the time you can better it from what it is right now, it works fine. Okay. Okay, I can see Manish saying C, Rajni saying A. Anybody else who wants to take a guess for this question? Lot of people are coming out with C. I can see Jalaj also saying C. Anyone else wants to take a guess? A and C में fight चल रहा है अभी तो. Okay, now this is a classic example. Okay, this is a classic example, and Manish and Jalaj, Rajneesh, you said A. Anyone else? The 15, 16 more. I can take a 30 seconds pause for this. Okay, Manish, Jalaj, if you can comment, why do you think it's C? Because this is a classic vocab question that had come in the exam, and just to tell you, almost 80% of the people marked it wrong. Okay, I'll tell you why. So there are B as well. Okay, fantastic. See, this is the interesting part. Most of us mark it A, B, or C, not based on understanding the meaning or understanding the rules of grammar or understanding anything. Indians have a very interesting way of solving English questions. Okay, इसको इसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं, सुन एक बार पढ़ के देखते हैं कौन सा फिट लग रहा है. राइट, एक बार पढ़ते हैं. ड्यूरिंग समर्स पेडिस्ट्रियंस लाइक टू रेस्ट बिलो द शेड ऑफ ए ट्री. कुछ अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है ना, मजा नहीं आ रहा है. बीनीथ द शेड ऑफ ए ट्री, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. अंडर द शेड, ऐसे अच्छा लग रहा है, ऐसे कान को सुकून मिल रहा है. राइट, इट साउंड्स लाइक अंडर होता तो ऐसे जैसे स्मूथ से निकल गया. राइट, दिस इज द इंडियन देसी स्टाइल ऑफ सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चन. none of us apply logic. None of us try to understand the logic or learn the rules for it. Okay, मैं एक सिंपल तरीके से आपको यह समझाता हूं. बिलो, बीनीथ, अंडर होने के लिए ऊपर कुछ होना चाहिए. राइट, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ यू आर बिलो ए high rise building, that means there is something above you. Or if you're beneath something, above you. If you're under something, there is something above you. Okay, jabki you miss out when you apply logic, and you will understand the question talks about not the tree. The question talks about shade of a tree. Okay, and therefore how will you go under the shade here? You can go under the tree. Maybe logically you can go below or beneath a tree also. We'll talk about it from the context. I don't want to start a vocab class here, but how will you go under the shade of a tree? And therefore the correct answer is actually none of the above, because actually you should go in the shade of a tree. Okay, whenever we are talking about shade of a tree, the shade has a boundary, and whenever you are sitting within a boundary, you sit in. Okay, a boxing fight happens inside a boxing ring. Okay, football happens in the football ground. Okay, that is because there is nothing above us. Now that is precisely how we need to learn English grammar, or we need to learn English vocab. Okay, because otherwise what is going to happen is, under the pressure of the exam, what we generally do is, वही हम लोग जो फिट करने वाले कॉन्सेप्ट को लेते हैं कि भाई पढ़ लेते हैं, जो सुनने में अच्छा लग रहा है वो कर देंगे. Okay, same thing goes for English grammar, whether it is I and Kohli going to open the innings, or me and Kohli going to open the innings, there will be always a confusion. And therefore, unless and until you know the grammar rule, unless and until you know where what is used in English, you will have a problem. Okay, and therefore I insist for everybody of you attending here that Lokesh, since you asked, please improve. And I'm not necessarily saying you will be able to be an expert in that in next 50 days or so. For that you have almost 100 days, but please improve your English grammar and English vocab. Without that, you are not even ready for RC as well as VA. Okay, so study, learn the rules, like you learn remainder theorem, like you learn Fermat's theorem, like you learn permutation and combination ke formulae or time and distance ke formulae, in the exact similar manner. Please learn usage of vocab in a sentence, English grammar rules. Yeah, I understand it is slightly more boring than quant, but then we don't have a choice. If you want to score good in this, I'll tell you why I'm insisting on this. uh, Let me prepone one information which I will come back in the subsequent slides also. But English is the most scoring section in CAT, and therefore even high scores might not really lead to high percentiles. Okay, you really need to be good in English to be able to score high percentiles in English. Okay, half of the janta will score more than 70-80% in the English section. Okay, which is extremely unlikely in quant and VA, quant and DI. So therefore, be very very ready that here negative marking will play a very very critical role. You simply cannot score less in the VRC section. Okay, so therefore, uh, for preparation, as I had just discussed, do know the basic grammar rules. Okay, what all do we need to learn? The minimum thing that you need to learn is subject verb agreement. This is very very important a chapter. Subject verb agreement from grammar is going to be like a lifesaver, uh, for all, for the paper as well as I said, for the subsequent part of the selection process. Prepositions and conjunction rules, uh, very very important. What is the difference between or and what is the difference between I prefer tea over coffee and prefer tea than coffee? Where do I use than, where do I use over? Okay, those are the rules that you need to know. There is absolutely no taking away from it. Okay, vocab, uh, lot of, I have seen lot of coaching institutes who tell you to learn the GRE, Barron's word list or something like that. What I can tell you is, both for CAT, ZAT as well as other exams, they seem to have more concentrated on the usage of the word based on the context, and not really, as I said, on the dictionary meaning or one word dictionary meaning of the word. So therefore, when you are reading RC or when you are reading a book, understand the difference between, let's say, the meaning of the words delete, expunge, or obliterate. Okay, where is delete used, where is expunge used? Okay, so you might have seen a recent story that one MP from Delhi had used some objectionable languages in the parliament, and the speaker decided to expunge those comments from the official noting down of speeches in the parliament. Okay, now why is that expunged? Why is that not deleted? Why is that not obliterated? What is obliterate and how is delete different from obliterate? That is something which you should learn uh, while learning vocab. Okay, so Lokesh, if I may answer your question, here you might like to learn a limited set of words, but you should understand the difference of usage and context. Okay, for example, how expunge is a more formal word for a formal occasion, and delete is a slightly casual word, and obliterate is a slightly strong word. Okay, the difference is in connotations. Okay, the difference is in context. I would like to obliterate a painful memory of mine. Okay, it's a strong word. It means like erasing the memory completely. Okay, it was a very painful moment for me, and I obliterated it as if I will never ever remember it. But expunge is used in more official formats. So therefore, when you are talking about it, understand the differences between them. That will be a much more fruitful preparation of vocab rather than learning 1400 words or 1500 words. Even if you take up some common words, the words, a new word that you learned in RC today, all you need to do is, after your RC practice is over, note down that word, learn 2 3 synonyms about it, uh, go to net, go to Merriam-Webster website, or Oxford University Press website. They have online dictionaries. Understand the differences in the context. See a sentence using those words. Okay, so let's say if obliterate is a new word for you, find out 2 3 synonyms about that word and understand where are these words different from obliterate, and which context expunge is used, which context delete is used. Okay, that is what I am talking about when we are talking about preparation for vocab. ओके, ये दोनों चीज आपको करना है, ये आप सिर्फ प्रैक्टिस से नहीं सीख सकते, ठीक है, और ये आपको चाहिए होगा. देयर इज नो रनिंग अवे फ्रॉम इट. प्लीज डोंट डू दैट. ओके, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड द सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस नॉट ओनली हैज स्कैट, ठीक है, it will have zat and nmat and snap also, number one. Number two, the next part of the process, you will have to write. There is a written exam for writing an essay. Okay, there are a lot of SOPs to be written. There is an interview that you will have to give. So if you say that okay, नहीं एक बार सिलेक्शन हो जाए, कॉल आ जाए, फिर मैं ग्रामर सीखूंगा या vocab सीखूंगा, that is not going to be a good idea. Plus, as I said, even for CAT, RC, critical reasoning, etc., you have to study vocab and basic grammar rules. Quickly, before I go into the specifics of it, one of the most important preparations for entrance exams is doing a fair amount of online reading. Okay, I'm talking about news sites, those people who have a tab. Maybe if you have a tab, if you have a Samsung tab or an iPad or something, read EPUBs. Okay, and do static screens. Okay, don't do dynamic screens. I'm not talking about a video running or a audio running behind the video or something like that, or something which is continuously scrolling. Okay, we are talking about static news sites which can be scrolled, or EPUBs. If you read ebooks, something like that, give at least 10 minutes stretch. Okay, preferably in a laptop or a desktop. But yeah, if you have tabs, that is also okay, in case you don't have an access to a laptop or a desktop. Okay, practice online more over printed exercises. Now this is something which you please understand that I did not say in the DI and the quant session, and I'll tell you why that is. The reason is, quant and DI, while you have seen the question in the print, even earlier you might have given some exams while looking at the computer, but you have always done your calculations on a piece of paper. English, the whole reading, comprehension, understanding, highlighting, etc., will be online. There is no calculations involved on paper. Okay, and therefore, unless and until you become very very comfortable with online reading, practice online reading and online solving questions in English, you will find it very very difficult to keep your concentration in the VRC section. Okay, I'll share with you a very important observation that has been shared by many psychologists who study entrance exams like GMAT, GRE, CAT, ZAT, etc. But yes, uh, this is the section where concentration lapse happens the most. Okay, so if you practice more of the NRC on printed exercise books and less on online, then you will find it very difficult to keep your concentration levels high in the entrance exam. Don't practice blindly. एज आई सेड, वीआरसी का प्रिपरेशन करना थोड़ा ज़रूरी है, रीडिंग करना थोड़ा ज़रूरी है, फिलोसॉफी बुक्स थोड़ा रीड कीजिए, जो जो आपको लगे कि ये टॉपिक्स मुझे नहीं आते, फाइनेंस के टॉपिक्स या फिलोसॉफी के टॉपिक्स, इसके ऊपर थोड़ा बेसिक्स बुक्स पढ़ना चालू कीजिए. Practice without knowledge is like playing gully cricket. Okay, if you don't know what is cover drive, or if you don't know what is sweep, you just play by instinct and they may not be correct. Okay, it might work once, it might work twice, it will not work in the World Cup. Okay, so don't practice blindly. Okay, saying that मुझे कुछ पढ़ने का जरूरत नहीं है, मुझे कोई रूल्स जानने का जरूरत नहीं है, मैं खाली जाके आज से प्रैक्टिस करूंगा या खाली मैं पैराजम्बल्स प्रैक्टिस करूंगा, will not help. There are a lot of rules, there are a lot of cues that teachers will give you, or there are books written on it as to how to, what are the cues for a parajumble, what are the connectives for a parajumble. Make sure you study them before you go and practice, and every practice has to be followed by some learning of new rules, some learning of new insights, and so on and so forth. Okay, now let's quickly take the RC section. Many people have come back to me and said that, I'm not good in RC. Can I skip RC and concentrate only on VA? If I answer all the questions of VA, will I be able to, clear the paper? The answer is no, for the simplest reason that RC is almost 66% of the paper. How can you dump 66% of the paper and still hope to get your cutoffs right? Okay, in fact, out of the 4 sets that come, there is a high chance that you will need to attempt at least 2-3 sets in 25 minutes time, which gives you practically almost 6 to 8 minutes per RC passage, which is enough time because the reading time goes up to around 5 to 6 minutes, and then followed by 4 questions, which if you have understood the passage fairly, each of these questions do not require more than 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. So therefore, practically in around 8.5 minutes, you are able to solve all the 4 questions of one set. So just ensure that, 8.5 minutes for each passage you need to do. Since you will not understand the difficulty level or the subject of the RC without starting to read the passage, initially while choosing set 1 over set 2, I suggest only the outlook, which is like length of the passage versus the number of questions. Okay, कि कितना लंबा पैसेज है और उसके नीचे कितने क्वेश्चंस है. Now for CAT it is almost standardized. Every passage will have 4 questions. Okay, mostly, at least last year that came like that. So therefore, obviously now what becomes important as a point is the shorter the passage, the better it is for you to attempt, because shorter passage followed by 4 questions vis-a-vis a longer passage followed by 4 questions. Okay, so this is important. Subject of the passage, an initial thing that you will need to understand is कि मेरा सब्जेक्ट कौन सा अच्छा है. फाइनेंस का टॉपिक आता है, अकाउंटिंग का टॉपिक आता है, एनवायरनमेंट इश्यूज का टॉपिक आता है, मेरे को अच्छे से आता है. ठीक है, बट द मोमेंट इट टॉक्स अबाउट फिलोसॉफी और म्यूजिक or relationship between human and animals and the ecosystem, then वो सब टॉपिक मुझे नहीं आता. So therefore it is very important that you choose your set first of all based on the length of the passage. Lokesh, I'll answer that question actually. Length of the passage versus number of questions. This is very, very important. Secondly, give yourself a 1.5-2 minutes of read and try to assess the vocab, the language, the comprehension part of it as to whether you are actually getting the heck of it. या सब कुछ सर के ऊपर से जा रहा है. ठीक है, so therefore don't hesitate to move on. Okay, I can with guarantee tell you that there'll be at least one easy set and there'll be at least one very difficult set. Okay, CAT has never given you all 4 sets being very tough or all 4 sets being very easy. They cannot. The basic science behind a question paper setting is you have to have something like a normal car where there will be some 10 to 15% of the questions which are very easy, 10 to 15% of the questions which are very tough, and the rest 70-80% of the questions are medium to difficult. Okay, so therefore the first 2 minutes of reading the passage becomes very, very important. If you feel that the first 2 minutes and you do not understand anything about it, then it is better to start with the next topic. Okay, Very, very important. Similarly, to build the instinct for that, I generally suggest that in the mocks, you do two experiments at least. Okay. One experiment is you see whether seeing the question first and then reading the passage improves your performance in the paper, or the other way around. So at least three mocks, you see the questions first and then read the passage. And in three mocks, do it. It does not matter mocks mein number kam aayenge to koi baat nahi, but at least we will know the experiment, what works. Similarly, a lot of people, for example, for a person like me, I tend to forget the questions if I see them first. Okay, so for me, when I approach the paper, for me what works is I read the passage first, then I can relate to the questions. If I read the questions first and then read the passage, I neither can concentrate on the passage because I tend to find out those questions which are in the back of my mind. Uh, in the middle of the passage, I tend to forget the questions as well. So it does not work for me. Okay, but it might work for you. So my generic suggestion is that in at least three mocks, you do this experiment and see which one works for you. Okay. Similarly, it is important that you do it your time management, as we just said, that in mocks you please check what type of passages you are comfortable with. Is it the ones with lot of data and statistics? Is it the one with lot of info? Is it the one with lot of judgment or opinion? Okay, at least these three categories you decide, and see where your efficiency has been the highest, your accuracy has been the highest. These experiments you need to do in the mocks. Okay, if you don't do these experiments in the mocks, you will never get to know your strength or your weakness. The negative side of it is, in some of the mocks you might score less, but at least you learn from it that bus a experiment does not work for me, so therefore let's not go there. Okay, what can be done over the next 50 days is, if in the next 2-3 mocks you actually recognize your weak sections. For example, if you say that philosophy या psychology wale topics are very bad for me, I don't get them at all. Okay, it may not be a bad idea to practice a little bit more of that. Okay, because you never know. Okay, it is something like what I said for logarithm in quant wala session, that maybe from logarithm you get an easy question, similarly from philosophy you might get an easy RC passage. So you never know. So therefore my suggestion is, over the next at least 25 days, let's divide these 50 days into 25 and 25. In the next 25 days, try to build some efficiency in your weaker wale topics. Okay, that will help you to bridge the gap, that will help you to make you comfortable more with these topics, and you will not run away from them. Please don't forget that the question paper is not in our hand. I don't know what is going to come. Okay, so therefore if 4 passages come from philosophy, I have to do the easy one, right? Or 4 passages come mix of finance and economics, and as an engineer I don't know anything about them, I have to answer the easy ones. So therefore it is important that over at least the next 20-25 days, practice the so called not so comfortable topics for you, or not so comfortable genres for you, so that you become at least uh, be able to see whether it is an easy or a tough passage and try to answer. Okay, very, very important points. And this is one common mistake. So maybe Lokesh, very, very important out here. Unless and until you are 100% sure in RC, keep an eye and try to avoid any of the extreme inferences. Okay, most of the time they are not the correct answer. So whenever it says that the author of the passage is saying that all elephants are, wild animals, or none of the Spanish people in the 18th century had good health, अगर ऐसे वर्ड्स है all, none, never, every, okay, these extreme words, okay, almost 99% of the cases these are not the right answers. ठीक है, आपको लग सकता है फ्रॉम द टोन ऑफ द पैसेज की ऑथर यही बोल रहा है, बट अनलेस एंड अनटिल देयर इज सम स्पेसिफिक word or a sentence which mentions that quite clearly, you should avoid these extreme inferences. Okay, that will help you to eliminate two or three obvious answers. Okay, unless, so therefore you need to be searching for that कि author ने कहीं पे तो बोला होगा कि all Spaniards in the 18th century had, you know, a weak digestive system, something like that. If that is there, then you mark it. Otherwise, even if he is talking very badly about the Spanish digestive system in the 18th century, you don't mark it as all or every. Okay, flip relations. Keep an eye on this for every RC and critical reasoning. A sentence like if I push the door, it will open does not necessarily mean if the door is open, that means it must have been pushed. Okay, please understand that pushing the door may be sufficient to open the door, but it is not necessary to open the door. Okay, now therefore what happens is we build our inferences that way. Those flip relations is very, very important to understand. So therefore study about them. Those if then relationships, then cause and effect relationship, uh, they play very important role in RC. What is the cause, what is the effect? Is the cause necessary as well as sufficient to create the effect, or it is only sufficient but not necessary, or it is necessary but not sufficient? Okay, so what is the difference between if I push the door it will open vis-a-vis only if I push the door it will open? What is the difference between the two is something which you need to understand. They create a very, very big difference in RC. Okay, please check out on that. Eliminate outliers. Okay, things that are not mentioned in the passage at all. Okay, that you are not supposed to that those options are supposed to be eliminated, I mean, without even a thought. For example, if you are talking about, let's say, a passage about atheism and its principles and why people don't believe in God and this and that and there, and there is something, okay, and there is a option which says that communal harmony is based on belief in God of different communities, whether it is Allah or Ishwar or Son of God or something like that. That's an outlier here. That's an outlier. There was no mention of communal harmony in the passage. Okay, and therefore, while it might look like it's a very close option, that is what he meant to say. He is meaning to say that not believing in God will lead to peace and all that stuff. That is not true. Please don't fall into these traps. Eliminate all the outliers. Okay, things that are not mentioned into the passage at all specifically are all outliers, and that's a very, very important way to eliminate options in RC. Okay, for questions like tone of the passage, your vocab should be very good with usage. Okay, for example, you need to understand the difference between a comedy, a satire, a humorous story. Okay, if you don't understand the difference between these three, then you will not be able to understand the tone of the passage, whether it is argumentative, okay, whether it is diplomatic. What is the difference between the two? What is the difference between logical and argumentative? Or something, if you don't understand, if your vocab is not good, your contextual understanding of the words is not good, you should completely avoid such questions. Okay, so again, go back. Now what should be your preparation? Therefore, your preparation should be that whenever you are doing these questions, whether you attempt them or not, the four options that you get after you have solved the mocks, you should go back to the dictionary, understand the context, kahan pe use hota hai, note it down somewhere so that you remember it for life. Okay, RC, these three four strategies become very, very important while you're doing RC. You'll be able to improve your accuracy in attempting RC questions hugely if you keep these 4 pointers in mind. Okay, verbal ability. Practice parajumbles and para completion and understand those cues and connectives. For example, you know that sentences cannot start with a pronoun. The paragraph could not have started with he if there is a sentence with a proper name later. Okay, so therefore connectives like hence and but cannot be the starting point. Okay, uh, every time you are solving parajumbles, even if you have got it right, make sure that you understand the logic and you go back to the explanations of the questions, as to why whatever is given as the correct answer. You may or may not agree. Okay, and therefore if you are preparing with a coaching institute, or you have some English expert to your disposal, then you must check. If you don't agree with the explanation, you must check. Or you can do a little bit of Google search, because most of the passages that are given, or most of the critical reasoning or parajumble passages that are given, are actually from very standard books, or very renowned books or articles or something like that. So therefore you can do a Google search and you can find out why the author has decided to write that sentence in that structure, and what could have been better and why. Okay, this is something which you need to do as an analysis every time you practice parajumbles. Now, in verbal ability, at least, if the question is type in the answer, then they become a must attempt. Okay, for the simplest reason that they don't have negative marking. ठीक है, तो जो भी आपका अंडरस्टैंडिंग बन पाता है, प्लीज इसको आंसर करिएगा, इनको ब्लैंक मत छोड़ के आइएगा. टीटा क्वेश्चंस बिकम ए मस्ट अटेम्प्ट इन वर्बल एबिलिटी. Lucky guesses sometimes, but at least take some informed guesses. If the more informed you are, the better it is, but it becomes a must attempt if it is a theta question. Okay, sentence correction, if it comes, as we just discussed, don't attempt by the sound of it. It is mostly wrong for us. Most of us have learned accounts ka book, or engineering electrical ka book, or civil engineering ka book. They are not written by English experts, and therefore the English that we have got exposed to are wrong. Okay, we have not read good literature. We have not read Arundhati Roy, or we have not read good English literature, whether it is Amitabh Ghosh or Arundhati Roy, or even Jeffrey Archer for that matter. Okay, so therefore there is no running away from when you know it. If you don't know, those strategies like एक बार पढ़ के देखता हूँ कौन सा सुनने में अच्छा लगता है, just simply don't work. Please understand, we have been born and brought up with wrong English, and therefore your instinct is based on wrong English, so that you cannot rely on those strategies to do sentence correction. Please don't do that. Okay, attempt it, therefore only if it is a theta question. आपको नहीं पता but फिर भी आप आंसर कर रहे हो, only if it is theta. Otherwise please don't answer sentence correction question. If you are not good with grammar, if you are not good with usage of vocab, my generic suggestion is sentence correction questions are good to be avoided unless it is theta. Okay, because the success rate for sentence correction question in CAT has been pathetic, and with no bias, I am telling you, it is mostly for science and commerce students. Okay, the English students, the art students generally are much better with English and sentence correction and parajumbles and etc. But the majority is commerce and engineering and science students, and they have been pathetic with sentence correction questions. So therefore the statistics says that our English is bad. Unless you have practiced it, unless you have studied some rules, my suggestion is sentence correction question, you better avoid it unless it is theta. We've already discussed this, but for CAT, vocab and usage, you never know. CAT might come back, and anyway, it is there for all the other exams that is there. Critical reasoning, syllogism, all cats are dogs, all dogs are hens, is something which might come back anytime. You never know. Okay, connectives, if, then, and, or, nor, neither, nor, or some of those rules, some of the sentences are very, very important. Please study them. As I said, a direct question using them may or may not come, but very clearly for all other exams they come. number one. Number two, they are very, very important tools for success in your RC vocabulary, parajumbles as well. So therefore, ignoring them and saying them iske to direct question nahi aate will not be a good idea. Okay. My last words for the VRC section, and this is perhaps the most important slide which I had mentioned in the beginning of the session. Our observation about VRC as CAT mentors is this is the section where people lose concentration the most. People enjoy doing quant. Okay. Even if you are not a quant student and even if you are petrified about quant, that makes you concentrated in quant. ओके तो आपको अगर क्वांट पसंद भी नहीं है ना, तब भी आप क्वांट में आप क्वांट करते जाते हो. अगर आपको डीआई पसंद भी नहीं है तब भी आप करते जाते हो. वीआरसी में क्योंकि आपको पढ़ना है और पढ़ना किसी को पसंद नहीं है, ठीक है, स्पेशली फॉर एग्जाम्स. VRC is the section where people lose concentration the most. पैसेज पढ़ते पढ़ते बीच में खो जाते हैं, ठीक है. If that is the case, practice it so that you can concentrate at least for 40 minutes. But if you still don't, do shuffle. It is important that you might need to do one RC followed by one VA or two VA questions, then come back to another RC or something like that. This is very, very important. Do shuffle, see whether the shuffling works for you. Traditionally speaking, you should not, if I being very Puritan, I will say नहीं ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए, आपको RC पहले खत्म करना चाहिए. But I will still say that आप देख लीजिए, अगर आपका concentration बीच बीच में break हो जाता है, I suggest that you can do one RC passage, then come back and do 2-3 VA questions, gather your mind, go back to RC, and so on and so forth. But having said that, याद रखिएगा 40 मिनट में कम से कम 25 to 30 minutes you have to give to the RC section. They bring marks, so nothing can be done about it. For VA questions, don't linger on these VA questions for more than 1.5 minutes. So one parajumble, you cannot spend more than 1.5 minutes, 1 quarter of a minute maybe. Okay, so 1 minute 45 seconds at max. Okay, but after that, agar aapse question nahi ho raha hai, please run away, move on. Don't linger on RC passages for more than first 2 minutes of reading. If it is going all overhead transmission, OHT, college lingo है, आपको पता ही है कि सब सर के ऊपर से जा रहा है. Again, just move on. RC पैसेज अगर आपको 2 मिनट में, पहला 2 मिनट में कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आया तो अगले 5 मिनट में भी कुछ नहीं समझ में आएगा. Very less chances of that. Come back to it if and only if all the 4 passages were like that and you say जय माता दी, अब तो कुछ करना ही है, ठीक है. So therefore, don't linger on RC passages for more than 2 minutes. It is going to be a disaster for time management. The last but not the least thing, don't compare the absolute scores of quant and DILR with VA. Okay, quant में traditionally speaking in CAT, unless the difficulty level changes drastically, 50% of the questions attempted is a very good attempt. Whereas if you look at VRC, traditionally, मतलब 85 percentile comes with almost 70 to 80% attempts. In fact, there are people who attempt all the 24 questions of VRC, okay, which is unthinkable in quant and DILR. So therefore, don't compare the absolute scores. The percentiles differ wildly. Okay, it is historically the most high scoring section of CAT, and therefore मान लीजिए आप बोलते हो कि मैंने क्वांट में 50% क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट करा तो VRC में मैं 60% करूंगा तो बहुत अच्छा अटेम्प्ट है. बिल्कुल नहीं, ठीक है. वो जनरली ऐसा क्वाइट पॉसिबल है अगर आप 70-80% अटेम्प्ट करने के बावजूद और 80% करेक्ट होने के बावजूद आपके परसेंटाइल्स 85 परसेंटाइल से ज्यादा ना आए. बिकॉज आप ऐसे सोचिए, अगर आपका प्रिपरेशन खराब है और आपने 70% अटेम्प्ट कर लिया तो जो लोग बहुत ज्यादा प्रिपरेशन किए हैं वो तो 90% क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट कर पाएंगे, ठीक है. तो देयरफॉर डोंट कंपेयर द एब्सोल्यूट स्कोर्स. एब्सोल्यूट स्कोर वर्सेस परसेंटाइल इज वाइडली डिफरेंट फॉर VRC vis-a-vis क्वांट एंड DA, ठीक है. तो VRC को थोड़ा सा अलग ही देखिए सेक्शन. इसको क्वांट और डीआई के साथ कंपेयर मत कीजिए, तभी आपका वीआरसी में थोड़ा सा प्रिपरेशन हो पाएगा, ठीक है। इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस, you can drop it on the chat window. I generally have answered all the questions, so I think Nirmala, if you can come in and take it from here. Nirmala, are you there? Okay,
Thanks, Professor. It was a wonderful session as usual. And
Thank you.
yeah, am I audible? Great. So thank you. It was a wonderful session, and couple of pointers which you made. For example, the RC paper, which is 66%, and target has to be to at least attempt 2 to 3 sets, right? And in 25 minutes, which is very, very important, that 25 minutes, 2 to 3 sets, and the rest is smooth. So 66% is the challenge, and that has to be tackled. So that was a very strategic input, I would say. And of course, we look forward to our next session, that is next Friday. In the meantime, we would like to thank MDI Gurgaon, which is again was the associate partner of this particular session. For people who are not aware, MDI Gurgaon remains on the top. As per NIRF ranking, it is the number 2 private institute of the country. Not just that, it is also ahead of many of the IIMs. For example, IIM A, B, C, and L in many aspects in an NIRF ranking. The average CTC of MDI Gurgaon for the past batch, that is 2023 batch, was 27.6 lakhs per annum, and for HR, the human resource program which they offer, it was 26.5 lakh per annum. And it is also, of course, located in one of the heart of Delhi NCR. And the breaking news is MDI Gurgaon has launched a new program which is in data analytics. Of course, the cutoff percentile MDI remains very high, 94 percentile and above, which depends on that particular batch, which is always applying in that particular year. But yes, MDI dominates the scene, and it is a challenge for many of the IIMs. So do let us know what all information you may need for MDI Gurgaon, and at the same time also whatever Dhruvajyoti sir has said today or maybe in the earlier sessions remains in YouTube. You can always come back and check. At the same time, for practice, you can log into campussutra.com, take the mock tests, let us know if there is anything which you need from us in order to crack the CAT or the ZAT and enhance your scores. You can also find a list of 250 top B schools in the site with applications wherein you can click in from a single window, apply to whichever B schools you would like. You can also save it in your wish list, evaluate, shortlist, compare with the data of the past placement trends, the fees, and a lot of other variables which we have. So for till now, we have come across the 4th session. There are 4 more sessions remaining. Do log in, keep watching, happy learning. Thank you so much. Good night.